Hey, it's the Kingdom Enter Academy podcast. I am so glad you are here. I'm Teresa Croft, and we always focus on our voice. We go deep in understanding our identity. So, before I introduce this guest, I got to tell you a little story. So, I was in San Diego a couple of weeks ago for this speaker academy, which turned into a conference. And I was having dinner with Jenny, Virginia. And so I was like, Jenny, so I'd only met this guest on Zoom calls. I said, so tell me, what is Michelle really like? And she proceeded to talk and talk and talk. The very next day, I walked in the room, one hug and looking in her eyes, and I knew this is a kingdom influencer I want in my life. So, with that, it's great honor to welcome you, just an amazing woman, Michelle Schaefer. Hey, Michelle.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Teresa.
It is so great to have you. Now, I know, listen, guys, we're going to have a coffee chat and you're going to be blessed to listen in. Okay. So, Michelle, I know we could go in detail about your background, but I do like the mother heart. So, can we just touch on this where you realized you were working as in the beauty salon and you realized you wanted to be home with your kids more? Kind of take us from there just a little bit.
Sure. Well, I think I probably always wanted to be home with my kids. I had my first child at 16 years old, so I was just a child myself. And prior to that, though, that I knew someday I was going to be a mom, but I had aspirations to go to college. I wanted to be a journalist and an actor and a writer and all the things. A lawyer. I really wanted to be a lawyer. And then I had this child, and of course everything changes. And
Yeah.
when my first daughter was born, even though I was only a child, I fell into the deepest love I'd ever knew or experienced, and anything that I wanted for me kind of just melted away.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to spend every moment with my children. That's not exactly how life turned out for
Yeah.
me. I had my son, my second child, a couple of years later, 2.5 years later. And then a year after that, a year and a half after that, I was divorced with two kids at,
Wow.
just barely 21. So I was thrust into the working world.
Hmm.
And, when you it's survival. You're
Yeah.
not thinking you're thinking about surviving. You're not thinking, I mean, maybe in the distant part of my mind I was thinking it would be great if I could have my life look like this, but in the moment as a young girl, no college education, and having these two humans rely on me, I was just focused on making ends meet. So I tried to figure out a way that I could make not just ends meet. I didn't want to just barely make it. I wanted to make enough that I felt comfortable. I jumped into the beauty business. I was able to create a six-figure income there, and I loved the business. However, um, just that mom guilt that just is part of being a mom. I worked 50 to 60 hours a week, and I
Uh,
missed so much of my children's lives. And then when I, you know, years and years later got remarried, and we had my third child, really that's when all of that time kind of came together and felt like a little explosion inside of my heart. Like, I have to get home, or these children that I've been raising since I was a teen are going to grow up and move out, and
yeah.
we wouldn't have known each other.
So you got married to Bobby, and he introduced you to the wonderful world of network marketing. And I know we don't have to go on it. You worked and busted your butt on all the companies that you worked with. So I'm going to take a slight turn. So you are a faith influencer, and you came head to head to an idea. Tell us that about the origination of Girl Power Alliance. Can you take us on that journey a little?
I would love to do that, but it has to start kind of back at like 2017.
Please do. That's fine. Oops,
Woman,
sorry.
it's okay. I've been a woman of faith my whole life. I grew up in a Christian home. I attended church as a young girl. As a young adult, I attended church off and on. It certainly wasn't consistent, but God was consistent in my life, even when I wasn't walking with Him. But being in survival mode for as long as I had been, just wanting to make ends meet, I didn't want anything to get in the way of that. And I had always been taught, if you want to be successful, you don't talk politics, and you don't talk religion. And I never did. even though my relationship with the Lord was changing and morphing and growing and really shaping who I was as a person, who I
Right.
was as a wife, who I was as a mom, but it wasn't like something I just put out there for the
Okay.
world. Remember, we lived in the world before there was social media, so everybody didn't know everything that you did all the time. So it's just this private journey that I had with my walk with the Lord. But as social media did come into play, and as God was really working on me, there came a point in 2017 where I felt this push that I felt like God was really asking me to be more upfront, more bold, talk about my relationship with it was such a big part of my life. I wasn't talking about it really at all. And I
Yeah.
felt like he was asking me like, okay, I'm not really asking, like kind of telling me, I want you to be more bold. But the
Wow.
question he asked me was, if you weren't worried about offending anybody, like, even before cancel culture was a thing, it was still a thing. So
Right.
if you weren't worried about offending anybody or upsetting anybody, what would it sound like? What would your language be? What would you talk about? And so because of that, and only that, I started a podcast in 2017 called Sold Out Entrepreneur, SOULED, Sold Out. And on that podcast, I talked about everything through the lens of faith.
Hmm.
And I remember before I record, it was just me and this microphone right here and my
Right.
computer. It's my relationship with my podcast is me alone with this microphone and my computer. And I wasn't video recording them. I only did audios.
Okay.
And I remember I had recorded a couple of episodes to release when I launched the podcast. And I remember telling my husband, I'm so nervous about this. I feel so naked. And he's like, I don't get it. You literally talk to people all day, every day. I said, I know, but this is different.
Wow.
And it was different because I was going places that I had never gone before.
Yeah.
And the process of doing that podcast really was the catalyst for what is now my company, because that stepping into that place of talking freely about my faith
Uh-huh.
and really going wherever I felt like I wanted to go, and really like going deep on what I thought about God, what God was showing me in the marketplace and relationships. It shifted everything about me, and almost like, okay, I'm going to paint a picture for you. Do you remember, Teresa, when radios had a dial? Like,
Sure.
you had to it wasn't digital. You had
Right.
to turn the dial and find the station. And so,
That's
like, you'd be turning the dial and you'd hear it and then you'd stop. And then you'd kinda, like, do this to the dial. You'd adjust it. You'd turn it and turn it just slightly until you got a crisp voice. That's what doing that podcast did for
right.
me. It was like I didn't really know who I wasn't and who I was, and then I started to tune into it, and
Yeah.
that podcast really got me to a place of, like, clarity. And so once I began to feel that,
Wow.
anything that wasn't that felt yucky. It felt like static, in the radio. If to keep on the same analogy, it just felt like it didn't feel like me anymore. And so I had built this wonderful, amazing career with this company and making a lot of money. It just didn't fit
Wow.
anymore.
Wow. So that's got to be encouragement, because really what you're saying is you were finding your authentic voice, which had this solid foundation with your relationship with God. I think that's encouragement, don't you think? Anyone, I mean, podcasting now, I can't tell you how many people come up to me. How do you create a podcast? That's hope. That even if you look in that camera and no one's watching, your identity is being formed as you step up to the plate. That I didn't know that was the beginning. That is really fascinating.
It is the beginning, and because if I had never had done that,
Yeah,
I don't know that I ever would have really been able to experience the feeling of what came out of me
yeah,
as I was expressing the full expression of me. They were all pieces. Like, I think everybody can, like, it's not like you're not being you, but you're only being a portion of you
wow.
in these different segments
Yeah,
of your life. And I was able to, like, just be me
that's
all the
so
way.
so powerful. So Michelle is now the founder of Girl Power Alliance. And I got to tell you something, Michelle. There are conferences and there is the conference. And 2 weeks ago, I went to one of the conferences. It was Girl Power's annual Activate concert conference. And this is where I want to go from here. I remember sitting there and just watching you, and then watching the ladies and the honor and the accountability and the celebrations of going through leadership classes. And Michelle, it hit me deep in the core of my being. I'm like, that is who I want to be aligned to.
Mm.
Someone who is moving atmospheres and is bringing an organization that's a kingdom, but it's for the benefit of so many people. And I just want, like I said, I just was at a conference this past week, and it was like, oh God, give me back to Activate. I learned a lot of good stuff about AI and stuff. I love AI. I think it's a tool that we can use. So obviously you just didn't get to that place as far as Activate, but you're seeing something build. So could you like share about that, like personal development? I mean, of what you offer inside this community, inside this alliance.
Yeah, thank you. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I feel like that. I look forward to it. This was really this Activate that you just attended was our second one, but it really was the first because I was able to design it absolutely um, the way that I would have wanted a conference to go, literally from moment one to the last
Mm,
moment,
I'm still
and
getting goosebumps as you talk about it because I'm
it's
right
so
up in my
good.
face of the memory of that. So thank you for your diligence and
Oh, it's a whole team, but
yeah,
it's a God idea. It's a God idea
yeah,
for sure.
really awesome.
Um, Wait, what did you ask me?
Oh, I was really asking you, obviously, whatever's inside Girl Power Alliance,
Oh, the personal
personal
development. Yes.
development, professional development,
Yeah.
leadership. I think we could start at personal development
Yeah.
because you're not an influencer. You don't really have a voice until you take care of your stuff. For
Yeah.
example, can I give you an example? I joined in February this past year, and I mainly thought I was in there for just a speaker academy, but I realized something. I didn't have PTSD of this business. I had PTSD in my own life that
Mm.
I had to take care of. So even I stayed in it, I watched the calls, but I wasn't actively to the point of sharing it much. And I say all that to say that from February till uh, maybe September, I went through such an intense neuropsychotherapy where like I feel like a totally different person. It's like I'm free. I'm going to speak from a scar, not a wound. So personal development sometimes is the beginning of that.
I think it's always the beginning of it, always. And this is a biblical concept, the idea that we are not to remain infants. And if you look around, um, let's just say your immediate circle, like your friends.
Yeah.
If you had friends maybe that you went to like high school or college with, are they the exact same person that they were in high school or college?
Mhm.
Because how can you become all the things that you want to become if you're not becoming? And it's biblical. This walk with the Lord is active. You can't sit on the stands as a bystander, and watch and expect that it's going to happen. So personal development, I think, is the beginning of so many things: becoming a better wife, mother, daughter, sister, leader in business,
Wow.
volunteer. All of it stems from that, because the truth of the matter is most people do not really have self-awareness. That it's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
We're around certain people and we act the way that we act, and we have no self-awareness. And um, you know, a couple of things for me. Number one, I grew up in a family where my older sister had terminal cancer, and it was it was a very traumatic, just my home life was traumatic because of that. My mom struggled with mental illness, which when I look back now, I can see, I mean, it's plain as day, but as a child, you don't know. And there were things that happened along the way that I can see now had a tremendous impact on me, because I never wanted that to happen. I knew that, well, I'm not going to be like that. That's not how I'm going to behave. And then I become a mother as a teenager. And so I'm this child. I didn't even have an actual identity, didn't have a career, I didn't have anything yet. But I knew that some of the things that I felt as a child, still, I was still a child. Some of the things that I felt as a result of my life and my parents' behavior, that my kids were not going to experience that. So I remember being 16 and pregnant and reading books on parenting, because I was like, my children aren't going to feel like that. I'm not going to behave that way, so my children don't feel that way. So that was the first kind of entrance for me into self-development. I was trying to develop as a parent. I was like, I'm going to be a good mom. I know I'm a kid, but I'm going to be a good mom. And
Wow.
then when I got into uh, network marketing, so much is around personal development. I started reading personal development books and leadership and all these things. And I had an insatiable hunger for it. And so all of that always kind of sifted through the lens of my faith, because a lot of self-development, that world, a lot of it's very, very new agey. It very much puts you at the center of it, giving you the false idea that you are manifesting your reality, when I don't believe that at all. I believe that
Thank
your
you.
reality is shaped by your faith in God and the
Amen.
submission to God. And so I could go a lot of places there, but it always starts with personal development
Yeah.
and making a decision to take radical responsibility for who you are and for the circumstances that you exist in.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying we're not manifesting. I had a weekend of that, and I'm thinking, okay,
Oh,
just internalize that you have a relationship with God. Don't chase the unicorn. The unicorn is the Holy Spirit. No disgrace, but I was there
yeah.
for AI tools, and it was great. Um, Part of Girl Power Alliance is there's an opportunity. But before we say something about that opportunity, Michelle, making money is spiritual warfare. What do you say to that?
Oh, 110%. Because I mean, if you could keep somebody, what's the best way to keep somebody from doing anything? To give them
Ah,
no hope, to give them no resources, to make them so worried about paying bills that they can't possibly step into
yeah.
their true identity. They can't possibly think about impacting the world. I think it's one of the biggest tools. And I think that the church in general has bought into it, because they I think there's a lot of reasons. I won't get into the minutia of it, because this could be a whole podcast in and of itself.
In itself, yeah.
But I believe that, there's certain denominations, certain churches that they have wanted to make sure that, um, this is going to sound bad, but this is just the way I think. I think that a lot of churches have wanted to make sure that people spent their money at the church. That,
Hello.
like,
Preach.
make sure you can't want money, but we want your money, but you
Yeah,
can't want money. You can't, and they also wanted the work of the church to be at the church, so that people
right.
spent their money at the church. But the truth of the matter is, and what I believe is, we physically, us, the believers, we are the
Oh,
church. We
we
never
are.
needed a building. It's
Yeah.
wonderful to have a building in your local area that does good works, that is
Mhm.
a place for people to gather in fellowship. But it was just supposed to be one piece of the puzzle of the
Thank
church.
you.
And so, being that money moves the needle. Money funds orphanages. It
Mhm.
gives missionaries the ability to go overseas. It prints Bibles. It gives homeless people the ability to go sleep in a hotel and get treatment. It gives single moms the ability to pay rent. For my church here locally owns 6 homes, and they allow single moms or families that are in need to spend 1 year in a home rent free. That
Awesome.
is life changing. It takes money to do that.
Yeah.
So I believe that money in the hands of faithful believers will change the world.
That's so good. And now we're not bashing church, but
Not at all.
no, it's just sad when church tries to keep the members inside for the money, for the and I love churches that release you to go and use your voice to where God has told you to. So you have in your book, by the way, best guidelines.
Oh,
If you really want to know, I've read it to the conference, and I'm so relieved to read the rest of it coming home from that last conference. I'd like to talk about, I love how you said in the book, don't insult God by dreaming small. One thing I liked about this last conference is there were a couple of Christians in this panel, and they were like, it's your responsibility. If you've got a message, it's your responsibility to go. This is going to sound crazy, but to go on Instagram, go on Facebook, and share the stuff that you've learned. It's your responsibility to obey God if He's telling you to do that. And I could sit up here and start preaching, because that's my whole heart of this podcast, of using your voice. Don't insult God by dreaming small. Why don't you? I read the book. Why don't you break that down? It's so beautiful.
Um, I think about first and foremost nature. Like I am awed by nature like every day. I live in a beautiful area. It's beautiful. There's mountains. In the winter, we get these snow caps. The sun sets and the sun rises and the colors and the way that the clouds are. Every little intricate detail of a leaf and a flower. There's nothing small about that. If you've ever gone anywhere beautiful, like just say Hawaii, I mean, you're awestruck. It's the crystal clear water and the different colored fish in the ocean and the shells and pearls are created inside of oyster. I mean, the just the magnificence of earth and nature and what God has created. There's nothing small about that. And then you look at children and how they have these wild, radical imaginations and they want to be 100 things 100 times and they play, dress up and their imaginations just go, there's nothing that limits them and their thinking. But what happens to us?
Yeah.
We grow up and we can't even think outside of, going to work this week. And
Yeah.
I believe that's a design of the enemy. But,
Mm.
like we serve this incredible creative creator. I mean, he's the original creator. We're creators. We're doing podcasts and content. He's the original creator. That's built inside our DNA.
Yeah.
These magnificent ideas and the things that happen were his idea always and first. And when I think about that particular statement that I wrote or thinking about dreaming big, I think about the parable of the talents in Matthew,
Mhm.
because Jesus specifically said before he shared that parable, he said, the entire kingdom can be summed up in this parable. The entire kingdom can be summed up in this parable. And in the parable, he talks about, the master who gives a sum of money to three different guys. The first two guys go out and they actually double that amount of money. And the third guy buried it. He was afraid that he was going to get in trouble or lose it or whatever. So he said, I'm not going to take any risk at all. I'm going to just take what I was given and I'm going to bury it until the time where the master's going to come back and he's going to collect what was his. Then I'm safe. And what happens was when he comes back and he tells him, he says it with, I'm putting my own like mood and tone on it, but I would imagine he's like, hey, I knew who you were. So I wasn't about to take a risk here. So here's your stuff. I buried it. Here's exactly what you gave me.
Mm.
And instead of being praised, instead of saying, good job, thank you for not losing it, what the parable tells us is the master says to him, you worthless and lazy servant. And he doesn't just stop there by actually insulting his lack of action. He actually says, take what he has and go give it to the guy who did something with what I gave him.
Yeah.
That I believe, if we are to believe what Jesus says, that the whole kingdom is wrapped up in this parable, then we can apply that to everything. We can apply that to money, to relationships. We can apply that to our gifts and our talents. And what that means to me is, you have these dreams inside of you. And sadly, for a lot of people, they push them down and they bury
Mm.
them. They never, ever take one step because in their mind, it's just a dream. That can't be what God's calling me to. That's
Right.
impossible. How would I do it? I don't have the resources. I don't have the skill. That can't be the thing that I'm supposed to do. So they do nothing with it.
Wow.
But if we're to follow this parable, just like Jesus said, the whole kingdom, then I take it like this. Like you have things inside of you, their skills or talents or dreams or desires. I believe they were put in your heart by God. If you're following God, you can trust that they were put there by God, at least in some version, right? And
Right.
if we do nothing with it, if we don't take any risk, if we
Mm.
never take any step, it's the equivalent of burying it when you get to heaven one day and you say, here, God, I knew this was the thing you gave me and I protected it and I did nothing with it. And instead of him going, good job, he's going to go, why didn't you
Yeah.
do something with that thing I gave you? I created you to do this and you did nothing with it.
Wow.
So dreaming small to me is the equivalent of that.
And if someone like just thinks, okay, this is what I love about what Michelle has created in her staff within Girl Power Alliance, it's a stepping stone, a big stepping stone, really, of you saying, okay, I like what she's saying. I've been dreaming small, so where do I start? I think it was born inside Michelle's heart from that single story in the Bible to say, hey, we need to have some place where someone can start right from the beginning and not just get personal, professional, leadership development, and then have an arm to it where you get to make money.
Yeah.
I think as you're seeing the company grow and as you're seeing more and more women come in, I think you're seeing this in your own eyes just come to life. More and more people are finding out about this thing called Girl Power Alliance. More and more people, hey, they want to have a podcast, but they want to start with some professional development first. That is you. Please check out or look at the links in the show notes here for a chance to really look inside. Now, I love marketing. I love AI. I love making websites. And they did something really phenomenal is they created a opt-in that turns into a funnel of an email marketing dripping. So they're actually giving you the tools, aren't you, Michelle? Giving the tools to help you make this not a I don't know, Michelle, when you said in the chapter, this is real hard for me because I'm a little bit of an introvert, believe it or not. But when you said something like, start shaking hands and kissing babies, I was like, oh gosh, that means I got to go out the door. And that's okay. I know I got to learn that. But I'd rather be like Michelle Tufford and just kind of bring them in over TikTok, over to Instagram. There's many ways to do it,
There's
but
many
there's
ways.
nothing like this is the bottom line. What I'm saying about all of this. It's a place where you get connected and it's really a place where you do stretch yourself. And the number one thing is it's this bank card called relationships. It's not like just to cash in, but if you really develop relationships in God's economy, He has a way of not paying back, but giving back what you pour out into people. So, talking about this business, it is a multi level marketing business. So, Michelle, coach me and everyone else listening. What have you found the key to get to that point where you're talking and you're loving them, talking and loving them, and then bringing them in effortlessly?
Well, for me, it's never network marketing is predicated on the fact that happy customers,
Mm,
people that love whatever the product is, can't stop talking about it. And I've worked solely with women, like primarily my entire adult career, first behind the chair in the salon. I mean, you had sprinkled in a couple of men, but they were mostly women. And then in network marketing, I've mostly worked with women. And I will tell you something about women that is one of our giftings. When you're excited about something, you can't shut up about it. It's just the way that it is. So women have been able to be really, really phenomenal in the network marketing profession because that is a natural thing that comes out of you, introvert or not.
yes.
If you like something, you found a good AI that's working for you, you're
You
not keeping it to yourself. You're
no.
telling everyone because you're like,
I'm
this will help you.
I'm creating a course. Hey, speaking of, I'm starting to see the difference in me. I took an Uber and I just effortlessly talking. I actually had another person, and next thing you know, she goes, "I need to know what you're talking about." So I sent her a link. I had a live Mental Monday. It was on Tuesday yesterday. She joined that. So for me personally, I'm not an introvert. And what I'm excited about this, it's not something that you got 120 products waiting in the garage to sell. It's your very heart. If you are all about personal development and you want some yourself, if you're all about making money, if you're all about connecting, and I got to say this, Michelle, it's not just all those things. We get, is it almost every day of the week? We got some call, a prayer call,
There's a lot of stuff.
introduction call, a leader call, opportunity call. That's to me. I think to me that is part of the glue that holds us all together in a community. Even when we leave Activate, it was so depressing leaving Activate, where I
I
met all.
was depressed too.
But yeah, that was just amazing. But I think the calls and social media, the text, the inboxes is kind of the glue. So if you think you're an introvert like me, no, you wouldn't be an introvert when you believe in something. And when you start seeing the results of personal development, you start going through is it 16 weeks of the leadership? I
Yes.
can't wait. I'm going to be there Monday or 2024 with Molly. I can't wait. That's something I
Oh, you
missed.
haven't gone through RLA yet.
I was going through RLA one-on-one with the therapist. No,
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
Teresa.
yes. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. And Molly's going to be the leader of the 2024. So yeah,
Oh my
see,
goodness.
then because that happened to me, Michelle, I think I'll be all the more when enrollees come in, I think I'll be all the more understanding, hey, that's where
Yes.
you've got to be. And it's okay. And no one really showed me all that. And I love the Speaker Academy. Let's talk about the Speaker Academy.
That's
because
so
I
fun.
talk, my course is all about getting your voice out there, whether online or on stages. So I kind of know the story of how you guys put this together, but for the sake of our listener,
Yes,
kind of
I'll
tell
share
me
it.
how you, because it is so exciting.
Oh my gosh, it's literally a whole it's its own entity, I think.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
believe it's going to grow into its own entity. So, I've been speaking for my whole career. Even when I was a hairdresser, I was speaking publicly because I was educating. I was going into salons and teaching haircuts and styles and product education. So that's what it's literally what I've been doing my whole life. And then I get into network marketing and you're speaking in homes. And I had a lot of success. So I got to speak on a lot of stages. And then I started a podcast. So I'm speaking every day into a microphone, and then social media. Now you're doing live. So I have done the largest crowd I spoke in front of was 15,000 people, and that's cool. I always tell people though, if you could speak in front of two, you can speak in front of 2,000, and you can speak in
Amen.
front of 20. It's no different. It's literally no different. Actually, I think sometimes it's a little harder to speak in front of a smaller crowd because it's really intimate. So it's
Yeah.
a really intimate thing. Anyway, I love speaking. I don't have like I just it feels natural to me because it doesn't feel any different than speaking to you like this. And I had been seeing over the years, I had been seeing these courses for people that wanted to be speakers. Everybody wants to be a speaker. It's a great thing. It's a fun thing. People to get paid to speak. So over the years, I had seen courses, $5,000, whatever. But in the last couple of years, I've seen a lot of people do courses to teach people the ability to speak publicly, and to help them, launch their speaking career and all this stuff. And they were really expensive, 10,000, 15, 20, $25,000. And I'll be honest, I was very irritated by it. I was like, the people that are taking these courses for 10, 15, 20, $25,000 are the people that actually can't afford it, but they want so desperately to launch their career that they believe the marketing that says all you need to do is take this course and then now you're going to be a paid speaker. And I just thought, this kind of I know, and I know there's a lot of people out there who do high ticket offerings. I have nothing against them, but I will say that most of the time they're marketing to the people who make the percentage of what they make in comparison to what these courses cost is disproportionate. So the
Yeah.
people that should be paying $20,000 for the course are the people that are making $500,000 a year and more. And so it's a small percentage of that. But the
Yeah.
people that take it are the people that make 50. And
Yeah.
so it's disproportionate. So I thought to myself, I could create a very good speaker course. I've studied speakers for years to be a more effective communicator. I've learned a lot of things. I'll create a speaker course. And it just put it in the back of my mind, told the girls, like, one of these days I'm going to create a speaker course and it's going to be part of our membership. So people don't have to pay these outrageous amounts of money, doing all the things I didn't know. I don't have time. At some point, I'm going to get to it. Well, Lisa Vanderquack, that's what she does for a living. That's her trade is coaching and teaching people to speak. She's one of our leaders here inside Girl Power Alliance. She sends me a voice message one day and she goes, "Hey, I don't know if this is on your radar at all, but wouldn't it be cool if we could create something that was like the Radiant Leadership Academy, but it was a speaking academy?" Well, it was a confirmation to something that I already knew, but
Yeah.
now I had somebody who like wanted to move it forward with me so that it would like hold my feet to the fire. And so I said 110% yes. This was already on my radar. Anyway, we sat down. Um, Lisa, myself, and Molly, who prior to GPA was she would coach people about how to speak on camera and be effective. So three kind of different skill sets and different areas of expertise. And we sat down, and it was like a supernatural conversation. And this framework came out to teach people this talk, to have more impact but use less words, and to have a kingdom impact. And that's another thing that was driving me. The creme de la creme up till now is always TED. Everybody wants to get on a
Right.
TED Talk stage, and you put it on your bio, TED
Mhm.
Talk speaker, and all the things that happen. And people have gained a lot of notoriety from some of these. There's some great TED Talks out there that I've loved.
Yeah.
And so that's what people do. So they pay coaches, they pay to get on stages so they can be a TED Talk speaker. And I'm like, but you can't talk about Jesus on a TED Talk stage. You
Yeah.
can't. There's specific criteria. So I like,
Right.
what if we could create a platform for people that have a kingdom message? So anyway, all of that to say, what was birthed out of that conversation was a Kim 10, a kingdom impact talk in 10 minutes. And
So
so
good.
we created a framework around it and a certification around it. And in 2024, we're going to have our first Kim 10 event. So
Yes.
you were a part of our very first ever
Yes.
certification and small event. But from that small event, we're going to open this event to the public and to
So
other
good.
speakers.
Yeah.
It's going to be an amazing thing. And before you jump in, I just want to say this. So there's a 9-week online live virtual course that anybody can go through if they're part of the membership as a VIP. That's included in the VIP membership.
Right.
And so we go through framework and you have homework, and it's really setting the stage to be able to teach you this talk. And then those that want to go next level and go through the certification, you have the first day the ability to go on stage and share this talk that you've crafted, this 10-minute Kim 10 talk. And we had 4 moderators on a panel who would give feedback for the talk. And the next day was like your performance. Everybody got to get up on stage, and we had a professional camera crew there. And you haven't gotten it yet, but you're going to get it by the end of the month. You get this
Yeah.
10-minute professionally recorded talk. And what we saw from day 1 to day 2,
Oh,
I don't even, it wasn't even like speaker training. It was like some kind of Holy Spirit fire, like life
revival.
experience.
It was, and I gotta say, I'm going to be pushing the Radiant Speaker as a voice coach, but the fact that beautiful thing, this huge thing, is inside all this other good things, and Michelle, the price.
I know.
And no one should even focus on the price, because for that little bit to get in all of this, I say that because I'm in another mastermind where it's a lot of money, but this, every penny, every dollar is going to be worth you. And I got to say this on the Speaker Academy. So I've known since I was young that I was to be a speaker. So, open up the
Very
camera,
obvious.
open up the Apple, and but this is what I loved about it. I had been on very few stages. Okay. So this beautiful panel of 4 people, it was like a safe place. Now, I've had a lot of life happen to me, as if you watch my podcast, I get bits and pieces of it that's starting to be scars. So we speak from scars, not wounds. So I think I just tried to spit out the last 2 years of my life on the practice day. And I loved every minute. Now listen, y'all, that's vulnerable. You're getting up on the practice day, you're practicing your speech, and you're doing it really just in front of these 4 people. Every single one of these ladies, they had some advice, but they exuded love and support for you. Michelle, that was amazing. It was life-changing, really, for me,
It
because
was life-changing for me.
yeah. So you even gave me that catchy phrase that, nothing against, I am going to go for a TED talk on that phrase. I'm so glad my husband died. And then you said you should be a comedian. That's a heavy subject. So when I came home after the conference, it hit me. Really, you can use some comedy to make that bearable
Yes.
while you're trying to help out
Yes.
people. So there, I got an idea. She's like, you should start your speech out. So I went back to my motel room, and I felt like I had to rewrite the whole thing. And then I thought, no, I'm
It
not
did.
going to center just on
No.
that. So I pulled some of the things back and was able almost to make a whole nother Kim talk, but I wouldn't have been able to do that or have the wisdom to do that if I didn't have 4 beautiful ladies speak into my life. And Michelle, I got to tell you, you had such an impact on me, because it's like, yeah, you went through this crap, but you still got a message, I mean, that I can't explain that. So we're getting a little excited about just one segment that's inside Girl Power Alliance. The only thing that's missing is you. So please look at the show notes. We'll even give you a 24-hour sneak peek, or we'll give you something to give you the heart, because we could talk for more, and I don't want to take Michelle's time up. We could talk forever about the amazing
It's a
impact,
true story.
of Girl Power Alliance. But I'm so glad that you put in the Radiant Speaker. That's like an answer to my prayer. And like I said, Michelle, you provided a safe place. Sometimes women, they're like, oh, I can't imagine that. But if you can just listen to me, you want to speak. I know it's in you. I see you. Imagine just a safe place to start a little bit of a foundation to your dream of speaking. And Michelle, I got to tell you, at this last conference, big name conference, we had to go on stage and speak. Not long. It's just like, it was 30 seconds. But because of what I learned, on the Radiant Speaker Academy. So I went up there and I had a pregnant pause looking out because I believe in that. And I learned that from you and from the speakers. And it's all, they were almost like they were on anticipation, like, did she forget what she was going to say? And then bam. And you know how I ended it? I said, I'm Teresa Croft, a life speaker, certified life speaker, podcaster, yada, yada. I help women who feel voiceless find transformation by finding their voice, embracing it, and speaking. And then I had another pregnant pause because we're supposed to say what our superpower was. And with confidence, I looked out in that crowd and I said, my superpower is my voice because I shift atmospheres, but it's not me, but he inside of me. Exited that stage.
Wow.
Oh, so because I said that, all of a sudden, the few Christians that were there started to like connect because I was going in there as salt and light.
Yep.
And I wasn't, there's no judgment, but and they really teach speaking, but I go through Radiant Speaker Academy, it's the bomb. It's the real deal. So
Well, you were in the inaugural class,
yeah,
and so we learned a lot, and it was I can tell you with honesty, it was so much more than I had anticipated
is
it
that
being.
right?
I knew it was going to be good because
Yeah,
when you keep Jesus and stuff, it's just better. It just
yeah.
is. It's just better. But
Mm,
it was so much more than
yeah.
what I had anticipated that um like it was hard to transition my mind to leaving that there and then going into our conference, which is why we'll never do it again, because I kind of wanted to sit in the goodness a
Yeah,
little longer, and
sure.
we weren't able to. We just went into this
Yeah. Another amazing event.
the other event was amazing too. So it was
But you know what we were seeing? We were seeing the practice day, and it's almost like the Holy Spirit came into each of us
yes.
and flipped us around, and we came back with a revival speech. Any one of those ladies could have led a revival. That's and
Yes.
it's not like, oh, she's such a good speaker. No, that's just what happens when you put yourself in an environment, safety, and all four of these speakers are full of the fire of Jesus. They're good speakers too, and you got all that poured in you. I'm glad I stayed for every talk than the last day because I was so nervous the first day. I was trying to, in and out, like, what am I trying? Why is this making me nervous? Why do I feel like I need to be seen, but I need to be seen? All the nerves. It's wonderful. Don't think that's bad. But then you're in a safe place and you get to walk on stage and look out. And the number four, it's not like they're appearing writing notes. No, they're like, if they could speak, they were like cheering you on. I get excited about that. And I'm so glad, Michelle, I'm doing a signature course on helping you get on stage or online with using AI. But believe you me, and I'm going to send as many people as I can to Girl Power Alliance for that speaking engagement. Now, you only have one a year. So when do you start preparing the online course? Do you go through it 2 times, or do you just have one
You only
online?
have to go through it once
Okay.
to go through the certification. I think the next one we start is in March. I think I could be
Okay.
wrong. I don't
But
have the dates in front of me. And then we're going to do our live event probably the first week in June.
okay. Okay.
Because we're not going to butt it up to
Yeah.
we just can't. We can't
Yeah.
butt it up. But Activate is its own thing, and
Yeah.
this Kim 10 event, I it will be what I believe, and God gives me pictures, but I only know the first like
Right.
two steps, but I know the big picture. The
Yeah.
the Kim 10 events is going to be, it's a separate component to what we're doing, and who knows what God's going to do with it.
Yeah.
And so it will be part of GPA, but not. So the
Yeah.
Speaker Academy will always stay inside of Girl Power Alliance. The Kim 10 certification will stay inside Girl Power Alliance, but the Kim 10 events
Yeah.
will, I have a feeling, take a life of their own. And
Yeah.
so people that are not even a part of GPA will be on the stage, and we're going to open that up and see what God wants to do.
See
But
what God, yeah.
the bottom line is, I mean, for you, Teresa, I have seen tremendous change in you, just the lightness that is on your face when you
Yeah.
speak, the joy that comes out of you. And, you're just scratching the surface. You're just
Yeah.
starting in this stuff.
Yeah.
Imagine in 1 year, like
Whew.
you'll have to go back in 1 year and look at the podcast you recorded at this time, and
Okay.
just you don't even have to listen. You could just look at your face, and
Yeah.
what God is doing in this time is, I believe he's allowing
Thank you.
people that really intentionally seek him and intentionally decide to do what the first two guys in the parable did. They say, God, you gave me
Yes.
this. I'm going to work to increase it. I
Yeah.
believe that he's exponentially allowing growth that may have taken in another time years. It's happening in days and months. And
That's right.
I've seen that in you,
Thank you.
Teresa, like
Mm.
radical,
Yeah.
just like you're radiant. I mean, you
Thank
just radiate, and you walk into a room and you do shift the atmosphere.
you.
That's
Yeah.
happening with you
Yeah.
now. So
Thank you.
I just want to say I'm so
Thank
excited
you.
that we're
Thank
friends and that you're
Yeah.
part of what we're doing. I'm so glad you were part of our first group,
That's so
and I'm
exciting. Yeah.
excited to see what happens in
Yeah.
your life in the next year.
And I got to thank you for you said one word, yes. And if you're listening, that one word of yes, when you say yes, the yes of God swoops down there and is right next to you. And then you can be like Sarah, who embraced God's miracle working power. After she got done laughing, she said, yes, I believe this. And even though she was barren, and even though she was past the age of childbearing, she did something. She attached that yes, which is her faith, she attached it to the one who promised.
Mm.
The authority of her faith rested on the one who promised, and then she did something else. She tapped into his faithfulness. So that's the work. So you may be one yes from entering an amazing organization like Girl Power Alliance. And inside's got this another amazing speaker academy. Let me be your witness. I lost my husband. It hasn't even been 2 years, but I've walked in more freedom. And I'll thank Michelle and her team for more healing. And I've just begun because I'm going to start their leadership in January of 2024. It's a 16-week. I am so freaking excited. I can't stand still. So, Michelle, thank you so much for taking so much of your time. And I love it that you're an original podcaster. That really blesses my soul. I'm going on my 5th year next year. And I love, this is my happy place because I get to talk anything I want, have all these people, and just talk about Jesus and your voice and how you
I
can
miss it.
activate your voice. So, Michelle, I love you so much.
I love you too. You're amazing. Keep going. I'm your biggest fan.
Amen. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you for watching To the Kingdom.